Everything you seek is already around you, only in silence. Not hidden, not distant. Silence. And that's exactly why almost no one finds it. The noisy mind searches for grandiose signs, but the universe whispers. And those who live running, asking, affirming, trying to force reality, does not hear the call that is already happening now. Quantum manifestation is not a secret power reserved for a few enlightened individuals. It's simple, too simple. And it's this simplicity that confuses, that irritates, that makes so many people give up before realizing what's really happening. Because the ego wants complex rituals, it wants to feel like it's achieved something. The field, however, only responds to what vibrates silently, to what's true when no one is looking. The most common mistake isn't doubting, it's trying too hard. People think they need to convince the universe, but the universe doesn't need convincing. It just needs understanding. Every thought you force, every emotion you suppress, every attempt to accelerate what's still maturing, all of this creates noise. And noise is the opposite of creation. Imagine a drop of ink falling into a glass of still water. It expands gently, coloring everything. Now imagine the same drop in a stirred glass. The color disperses, breaks, and is lost. It's the same with the human mind. When there's calm, desire spreads harmoniously. When there's a rush, it fragments until it disappears. And the curious thing is that the key has always been in the least obvious place, in the space between one breath and the next, between impulse and surrender. This microscopic interval, which most ignore, is the point at which the invisible begins to move. The universe doesn't bend to your effort, but to your coherence. It doesn't understand orders, it understands rhythm. What if everything you wanted was already waiting just for the moment you stopped trying to control it? What if true manifestation was less about asking and more about allowing? This is the shift few can handle, because it requires trust, not force. The irony is that the most powerful mystery in the universe is hidden in what seems too simple to be taken seriously. But those who learn to listen to this silence discover that simplicity has always been the gateway. And that's why almost no one understands, because the truth doesn't shout, it breathes. Have you ever noticed how your mind tries to control even what hasn't yet happened? As if the fear of the unknown were stronger than the desire to trust. It's almost automatic. You plan, anticipate, calculate, strive to predict every step. And yet, something inside you remains restless, as if it knows there's another, more subtle rhythm that you insist on ignoring. Manifestation doesn't happen because you think about it. It happens when you align with the moment it already exists. The mistake is to think that the universe needs detailed instructions. It doesn't obey orders, it responds to vibrations. And vibration doesn't come from words, it comes from the state. What you feel when no one is looking is what expands, not what you say when you want to appear at peace. This is why so many people become frustrated. They believe they are creating something new, but they continue to emit the same old signal, fear disguised as intention. Imagine a dark room, where the light switch is within reach. You grasp it, but hesitate to turn it on, fearing what you'll see. That moment of hesitation is the space between control and trust. And it is precisely there that life awaits your decision. As you hold the button, the field waits. It doesn't force, it doesn't push. It simply mirrors your gesture. If there's tension, there's noise. If there's surrender, there's light. The mind, conditioned to seek results, doesn't understand the power of silence. It fears emptiness, as if it were loss, when in fact it is the field of creation in its purest state. This is why people who learn to truly stop begin to notice coincidences, synchronicities, answers that seem to arrive on their own. It's not chance. It's harmony. And it's in this harmony that simple manifestation happens, effortlessly, without formulas. There's something deeply human about this process. The fear of letting go and the desire to feel something respond. It's a dance between reason and faith, between the visible and what only the heart recognizes. And perhaps that's precisely why so many people choose to stay here, following each revelation, because they feel something true pulsing in these words, an ancient memory being awakened. What if the secret isn't about doing more, but about feeling differently? What if the simple act of breathing with presence were the code that changes everything? The air that goes in and out are already instructions sent to the universe, but almost no one notices. And that's where the shift begins, silent but unstoppable. There comes a point where control becomes a prison. You start wanting to create, but without realizing it, you start monitoring every detail of your life, waiting for proof that the universe is listening. And when it doesn't come, the mind tightens its grip. It becomes the jailer of your own intentions, transforming desire into anxiety. This is how manifestation dies, suffocated by the fear of failure. This is the part almost no one admits, the weight of trying to be one's own god of destiny. You calculate schedules, signs, coincidences, waiting for miracles like someone monitoring a promise. But the universe doesn't respond to demands, it responds to frequency. And the more you insist, the further it distances itself, because the sound of urgency doesn't match the rhythm of creation. The field doesn't recognize desperation. It only moves calmly. Think of a string stretched too far. The tighter it is, the more it threatens to snap. The tension is the same within you. The more you try to control it, the further away you become from the harmony that creates results. And yet, something inside insists, whispering that it can't stop, that it must keep the rhythm, as if silence itself were dangerous. The fear of emptiness is the fear of finding yourself. Most people don't realize the cost of this conflict. They carry a tense body, a closed chest, rigid shoulders, as if breathing into a box. Air enters, but doesn't fill. The heart beats, but doesn't sing. And deep down, there's the constant feeling that something is missing. This is the invisible consequence of effort without presence, living surrounded by possibilities and yet feeling separated from them. But there comes a time when the body itself begins to betray the excess. The heart races, sleep eludes us, thoughts swirl like trapped birds. It's the sign that the natural rhythm has been lost. And when that rhythm is lost, the field ceases to reflect clarity and begins to echo with confusion. Reality begins to repeat the same pattern, different in appearance, identical in vibration. Yet, amidst this silent chaos, there is a turning point. It appears like an involuntary sigh, like that instant when, for no apparent reason, the body releases and the mind quiets. It is brief, almost imperceptible. But within it lies something immense, a harbinger of rebalancing, like the air before the first rain after a sweltering summer. The universe seems to tilt in that instant, waiting to see if you will be able to perceive what is about to happen. And it's in that moment of near surrender that something begins to move. Not from outside, but from within. The mind still tries to understand, seek signs, create explanations, but the body already knows. It feels a relief that can't be explained, as if it's finally allowed to rest. It's the kind of calm that comes not after victory, but before it, as if the very act of letting go were the key that unlocks the door. You may have felt this before without realizing it. A moment when, tired of trying, you simply gave up. And then, what you were looking for happened naturally. The email arrived. The meeting took place. The answer came. As if the universe had simply waited for your silence before it could speak. This is the gentlest irony of existence. It reveals itself not when you demand it, but when you listen. Life, deep down, has never stopped talking to you. It whispers in small coincidences, in the pauses between one concern and another. But you have to slow down to notice. And, at this point in the journey, many feel the urge to support this discovery. Like someone leaving a silent sign that the message has touched them, a reminder that what is true always finds an echo. Perhaps manifestation isn't about creating something new, but about becoming able to perceive what's already present. Like a radio station changing frequencies, you don't need to construct the music, just tune in clearly. And the more you listen, the more the noise subsides. The feeling is one of familiarity, as if something old is being remembered, not learned. Imagine the sunrise after a long night. The darkness doesn't fight to leave, it simply dissolves before the light. This is what coherence is like. It doesn't need to overcome chaos, it simply exists. And when it emerges, all of life silently reorganizes itself. Small things shift, people come closer, time seems to cooperate. But this clarity has layers. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that manifesting isn't an event, it's a state. Simplicity, which once seemed banal, begins to feel sacred. There's beauty in realizing that what seemed like effort is actually a dance between intention and surrender. Still, there is a dimension that remains hidden, something that lives beyond breathing and calm. A point that cannot be reached with technique alone, but with total presence. And it is toward this invisible point that everything begins to converge now, the place where simplicity becomes revelation. When you begin to inhabit this state of presence, something curious happens. The world doesn't suddenly change, but the way you perceive it changes completely. The same streets, the same voices, the same problems, everything feels the same, but it no longer weighs the same. There's a new lightness in simple things, as if reality has slowed down just enough to let you see what's always been there. And it's in this gap between the known and the unseen that true power begins to act. But this transition isn't without its costs. It requires leaving behind the need to guarantee, to know, to control. And fear appears disguised as prudence, trying to convince you that letting go is dangerous, that trusting is naive. Your mind screams that you're about to lose control, when in fact what's about to be lost is just noise. Still, it's difficult. Letting go always feels like dying a little. Because part of who you believed yourself to be doesn't survive clarity. It's like crossing a rope bridge over a deep valley. Each step sways, the wind blows against you, and the ground seems to give way. Your mind begs you to return to solid ground, but there's something inside you, an ancient, calm voice, telling you to keep going. You can't see the other side, but you sense it. And deep down, it's this feeling that guides you. The contrast between fear and trust is never as stark as it is at this point. Sometimes, the silence you've learned to cultivate begins to feel too empty. You wonder if you're deceiving yourself, if this peace is real or just a pause before falling. It's a subtle, almost invisible test, where the universe seems to withdraw only to see if you remain whole when the echo fades. But something begins to respond. Not as a sound, but as a presence. A weight that transforms into heat, a tension that melts into rhythm. The body understands before the mind. Air enters more easily, shoulders relax, chest expands. The field begins to respond back. And in that silent moment, something inside you ignites, not like a flash, but like an ancient flame recognizing its own fire. What happens next has no definite shape. There's a growing realization that life isn't something to be molded, but something that molds itself within you. Fear still whispers, doubt still exists, but now they seem smaller, distant, like the sounds of a dream beginning to fade. And as this new frequency takes hold, the feeling arises that something even greater is coming, a revelation that can't be explained in words, but that approaches like a luminous omen about to pierce the veil. The revelation begins quietly, almost timidly, like a whisper that repeats itself until you realize it's no longer possible to pretend you didn't hear it. It arrives not like an explosion, but like a slowly rising tide, filling every space until it touches places you thought untouched. And what once seemed merely a concept now takes on a body, a skin, a breath. The manifestation ceases to be an idea and becomes an experience, and that changes everything. Suddenly, you realize that the same principle that creates realities acts in the little things. In the tone of your speech, the way you look, the gesture of opening a door or holding a cup. The field doesn't separate the sacred from the banal. Everything is vibration, and every vibration tells a story. When you change the rhythm within, the whole world responds, as if it were just waiting for your beat. But this realization comes at a price. Because with light comes shadow, and it doesn't arrive from outside. It comes from the parts of you that resist the new, from memories that still believe you must suffer to deserve it, from old voices that repeat that simplicity cannot be true. They don't disappear all at once. They rise up, one by one, demanding to be seen. It's a silent but profound confrontation between who you were and who is beginning to emerge. At this point, the fear changes form. It no longer comes as panic, but as nostalgia for the old. It's the unconscious desire to return to what was predictable, even if painful. You even miss the prisons you've learned to call home. And yet, something inside insists on continuing, even without the guarantee of solid ground. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. The light still touches the treetops, but the ground is already shrouded in darkness. You hear distant sounds, perhaps the wind, perhaps something else. Each step is a choice between retreat or trust. And while fear watches, hope rises like a flickering but living torch. It is hope that guides you now, and its flame, however small, seems enough to illuminate the next step. Tension builds. The body feels it before the mind comprehends it. The air seems denser, time slows down. Everything inside and outside you aligns, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. Something is about to happen, something that cannot be described, only experienced. And for a moment that seems eternal, everything is suspended, as if the world is waiting for you to say the first word of the new reality that is being born. When the new reality begins to form, it doesn't announce its arrival with trumpets. It emerges in detail, almost invisible, like small course corrections that only become evident after some time. An unexpected delay that prevents a bigger mistake. An unlikely encounter that opens a path. A simple conversation that changes the course of an entire day. These are subtle but unmistakable signs that the field is responding. And the most impressive thing is realizing that none of this comes from effort. It comes from the silent alignment you built when you stopped pushing. An intelligence begins to move within you. It doesn't need to be commanded, just acknowledged. Everything that once seemed like hard work becomes fluid. Situations that required struggle now unfold naturally. Life seems to conspire, not because you control it, but because you finally dance to its rhythm. The universe understands coherence better than stated intentions. When you become coherent, it responds without delay. But there are also tests, subtle, inevitable. They appear as distractions, as attempts to pull you back into the old pattern. A piece of news, a comment, a setback. And, for a moment, you feel the urge to react as before. It's the field asking, have you truly learned the new rhythm, or have you merely imitated it for a moment? This is the test that separates the temporary state from true transformation. You realize, then, that manifesting isn't a magical event, it's a practice of constant presence. Each choice becomes a silent declaration of what you're willing to sustain. And it's at this point that the impact begins to spread. People around you change their tone when they speak to you. Environments feel lighter. The unexpected begins to work in your favor. It's as if the universe is testing your constancy before delivering what has always been yours. Some people reach this point and feel the need to share what they've experienced, like someone writing in the sand to record the moment before the tide sweeps them away. Perhaps that's why so many feel the urge to leave their own perceptions, their small discoveries, as a way to mark the moment something changed. Because when transformation is true, it demands witnesses, not to prove it, but to echo it. And while this new state takes hold, something still pulsates on the horizon. The field, now awakened, begins to reorganize itself more broadly. There's a greater movement approaching, something beyond what the mind can comprehend. A silent call to the next level of creation. And everything indicates that the next step is already ready, just waiting for the moment you decide to step through it. With the field now awakened, life begins to respond in increasingly precise ways. But this precision doesn't always bring comfort. As reality adjusts to the new state you sustain, it also exposes what still vibrates out of alignment. People walk away without explanation. Old situations lose their meaning. Paths that seemed right unravel before the next step. It's the intelligence of the universe clearing the ground before planting the new. But, seen from within, it feels like loss. And fear returns, disguised as prudence. This is where the paradox becomes inevitable. The further you advance, the more life tests you. The field expands your sensitivity, and what once went unnoticed now resonates powerfully. Small internal lies become unbearable, old habits weigh like chains. The light exposes what still needs healing, and this process, though painful, is the very act of manifesting. Because there is no true creation without the release of what was. Imagine a river dammed for years. The accumulated water appears calm on the surface, but beneath it lies pressure, turbulence, pent-up energy. When the obstacle gives way, the flow doesn't begin smoothly, it surges violently, carrying away everything that was trapped. This is what happens when you finally release control. Life moves with intensity, sweeping away what no longer serves. And in this fleeting chaos, it's easy to forget that this is precisely what it means to begin again. Still, there's beauty amidst the disorder. You begin to realize that even the falls are part of the design, as if each rupture creates the space needed for something larger to fit in. The universe works not with punishment, but with precision. And when something is removed, it's because the frequency has shifted enough to no longer fit. It's a dance of gain and loss, of expansion and contraction, a perfect movement, even when it hurts. The curious thing is that, in this process, you begin to notice even more subtle synchronicities. A thought that materializes in minutes. A feeling that is confirmed in small, almost imperceptible gestures. The boundary between inside and outside dissolves, and the world begins to respond to you with a speed that previously seemed impossible. But along with this clarity comes a new kind of responsibility. The awareness that each thought now weighs more, creates more, shapes more. And it is at this point that the real challenge arises, sustaining the frequency when everything changes. Remaining centered when what was once safe falls apart. The field expands, the energy thickens, and life seems to await its next move with the same care one awaits the birth of a star. Something enormous is forming, silently, and the air carries the sense that the next step will be not just a breakthrough, but a revelation. Over time, you begin to understand that each loss was actually a disguised realignment. What's gone isn't lost, it simply follows the new flow you've created. Still, there are nights when doubt returns like an old shadow, walking beside you. The silence, once comfortable, now feels heavy. You look around and realize that part of what sustained your identity no longer exists. Friendships, plans, even certainties that seemed eternal begin to dissolve. It's as if the universe is clearing not only the path, but the very person who walks it. And it's in this emptiness that trust is truly tested. Because it's easy to believe when everything flows, when the field responds in perfect synchrony. It's hard to trust when the return doesn't come, when the tides recede and the horizon is covered in mist. Still, there's something silent that beckons you to keep going. An almost physical sensation that, even in the absence of answers, something is being prepared. And this intuition, this knowing without proof, becomes your compass. The paradox repeats itself. The more you surrender, the more the field demands truth. You can no longer sustain what is shallow. Life begins to demand coherence in every detail, in your words, in your gestures, even in the intentions you try to hide from yourself. It's a magnified mirror, reflecting not only what you show, but also what you avoid looking at. Clarity becomes relentless, and with it comes a new kind of freedom, the kind that arises when you no longer need to pretend. Little by little, the fear of loss gives way to a different sensation, that of being rebuilt, cell by cell, thought by thought. You realize you're no longer the same, but you also don't know what you're becoming. It's an in-between space, a crossing. Like the moment before dawn, when the sky is still dark, but the light is already here. And this moment stretches on, dense, mysterious, almost sacred. What once seemed like chaos now sounds like music on a different frequency. You begin to recognize a pattern behind the changes, an intelligence that orchestrates even the deviations. What seemed like punishment was stoning. What seemed like loss was liberation. And even without fully understanding, the body responds with a new peace, not the kind that comes from certainty, but the kind that arises from surrender. Still, there's something lingering in the distance, a promise unfulfilled, a glimmer that appears in the corner of your vision and disappears before you can name it. It's as if the universe breathes along with you, preparing for the moment when it will finally reveal what it all means. And in that space between now and what's to come, the air feels suspended, full of something that hasn't yet happened, but is already on its way. And then, something changes. Not outside, but inside, in a place where time doesn't exist and the air feels lighter. It's as if the universe has waited for this very moment to reveal what it was silently weaving. Everything that seemed chaotic begins to make sense. The losses fit together like pieces of a mosaic that was always there, only covered by the dust of haste. What was once pain becomes direction. What seemed like delay becomes precision. And the sensation that emerges is one of reunion, not conquest. You realize you were never trying to create something new. You were just remembering what always was. Manifestation wasn't a trick, but a return. Reality wasn't the field to be controlled. It was the mirror of your coherence. When you changed within, it simply responded. And now, faced with this silent recognition, there's a kind of gratitude that can't be expressed in words. It's a peace that fills without asking, that occupies the space where doubt once resided. The world suddenly seems to breathe with you. Coincidences no longer surprise, pauses no longer frighten. You understand the rhythm, the ebb and flow of creation. What flows is no longer desire, but the very flow of life flowing through you. It's simple, so simple it's sublime. All the field wanted was a willing heart. And now that it has found yours, the dialogue is constant. There are times when you still waver, of course. Your mind tries to return, fear tries to resurface. But something has definitely changed. Now you know. And this knowing, even silent, is indestructible. It's the kind of knowing you feel in your body, in your breath, in your presence. You become the observer and the creator at once. The fixed point and the movement. The question and the answer. And in that moment, it's impossible not to feel the urge to leave a sign, like lighting a candle in an invisible temple, saying, "I understand." Perhaps that's why so many choose to write a word, share what they felt, or simply support this space where truth is recognized. Because when something awakens, it wants to resonate. It's natural to want more people to find this reminder. The cycle closes and renews itself at the same time. The journey doesn't end, it changes form. Each breath is now a creation. Each silence, a conversation with the whole. Life returns to being what it always was, a field of possibilities waiting for coherence to blossom. And you, by being here, have already become part of it, not just a spectator, but a living frequency. Take a deep breath. Feel what remains. The simple was never small. It was essential all along. And perhaps the greatest secret of the universe is this: when you finally stop looking, it comes and finds you.